The Medicaid financial review is known for its complexity, but the big secret is they're not really counting everything. Some assets are often exempt under Medicaid rules. So we're going to see how Laura and Jim discovered which of their assets Medicaid actually ignores and how that made a real difference for their peace of mind. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what really happens during a Medicaid financial review using Laura and Jim's experience as a guide. Knowing what to expect and which assets truly matter can help you feel more confident as you start this process. When you begin the Medicaid financial review, the process starts actually when you submit your Medicaid application to the state office. I have a series of short videos that walks you step by step through the actual application for Washington State. Most states we're going to ask the same questions, so check those videos out. After your paperwork is submitted, you'll be scheduled for an interview with a public benefits specialist. Your state may offer this interview in person or over the phone. The letter that you receive within a week or two of when you submitted your application will tell you how the interview will be conducted and ask you to call and schedule a time with them. The specialist's job is to figure out whether you meet the financial criteria for Medicaid coverage. For many people, this process becomes a major source of stress. The idea of having every financial detail examined can feel overwhelming, and almost every single one of my clients has commented that they feel like it was a violation of their privacy. And I assured them that this is the process that every person has to go through. It can be especially difficult when you're already dealing with the emotional side of your loved one who's sick and they need care. It's not uncommon to worry that something you've worked hard to save for will suddenly count against you, or that you might miss a detail and end up ineligible. So Jim needed long-term care, and after years of saving for retirement, both he and his wife felt anxious about what would happen to their assets. Would their savings be counted against them? Was their home at risk? These are the kinds of questions that keep families up at night. During the review, the specialist asked Laura and Jim for a complete breakdown of their finances. This included their income sources like Social Security, pensions. They asked about their joint bank accounts, any investment or brokerage accounts, details about retirement funds such as IRAs, 401ks. It really helps if you plan ahead, prepare for this interview. The specialist also wants to know about property ownership, whether you own a home or a car, even older life insurance policies. Every detail matters. It's important to remember that the public benefits specialist is not allowed to give personal, financial, or legal advice. They can explain the Medicaid rules and how certain assets might affect your eligibility. They can't manage your money or tell you what steps to take next. That's why Laura and Jim scheduled a Medicaid planner, so they would not run into a planning dead end. For lots of families, having an expert to help navigate the process can make a big difference. It's critical to fully disclose everything. Medicaid uses a verification system to match what you put on the application, so omitting something could really backfire. The asset verification system is thorough. Any attempt to hide an account or an asset is likely to be discovered. It could lead to penalties or denial of benefits. Being upfront from the very beginning is the best way to avoid complications. One thing that surprised Laura and Jim was learning that some of their most valuable assets didn't actually count against them. Their home, for example, was protected under Medicaid rules as long as one of them planned on living there. Jim's modest life insurance policy, because of its small cash value, was also exempt. These exemptions made a real difference and gave them a sense of relief knowing that not everything they owned would be at risk. The process can feel intimidating, but knowing what to expect and what information you'll need to provide helps take some of the fear out of it. By the end of their interview, Laura and Jim realized that much of their anxiety had come from not knowing how the system worked. Some financial decisions, even ones made years ago, can have unexpected consequences when it comes to Medicaid eligibility. When you start looking at Medicaid's income and asset rules, the first thing that often surprises people is how many essentials are actually protected. Medicaid typically exempts your primary home and one car, all your household goods, and prepaid burial plots. Knowing that their primary home is exempt meant that the roof over Laura's head and their transportation for medical appointments were secure was a relief. But not everything is so straightforward. For most couples, for example, the asset limit for the applicant, the one who needs care, is $2,000. Limits update each year based on federal and state law, so it's really important to check the latest figures. The community spouse can keep a larger share, often tens of thousands of dollars, based on the state's guidelines. This higher limit for the spouse is meant to prevent the community spouse from becoming impoverished, but it still requires careful planning to stay within the rules. Retirement accounts are where things get complicated. IRAs, 401ks, and brokerage accounts are considered countable resources. So for Laura and Jim, this meant that Jim's retirement savings was included in the asset calculation, pushing him over the $2,000 limit, even though Laura was still under her spousal limit. The treatment of these accounts can feel confusing, especially since the rules are different for the applicant and the spouse. For the applicant, the full value of retirement accounts is counted. For the community spouse, it's sometimes possible to roll a retirement account into a Medicaid compliant annuity, which converts the resource into an income stream. This can help keep the spouse and their savings, but there's a catch. If the Medicaid recipient passes away before the annuity is fully paid out, the state may seek reimbursement for some of the benefits paid. That's why working with a Medicaid planner is so important. These decisions have long-term consequences. Another key rule is the 60-month look-back period. I have some other videos that go into this on a deeper level, so check those out. Medicaid reviews any transfers in the last 5 years. If they find out that you sold a vehicle to a friend for a low price, to be nice, and it was under fair market value, it doesn't matter your intent. You could be penalized. For Laura and Jim, this meant that even money that they had sent to their son for college 2 years earlier came under scrutiny. This is why documentation is critical. If you've made any gifts or property transfers, keep clear records showing the reason and the value that was exchanged. There are some exceptions, like transferring a home to a spouse, or a 401k to a spouse, or a home to a dependent child. There's some administrative code that allows those, but be really careful about that. So life insurance, Medicaid looks at the cash value. So if you have a whole life policy, cash value matters. If you have a term policy, it doesn't matter. Large policies like cash value, whole life insurance, likely you're going to have to liquidate those assets and spend down the proceeds to qualify for Medicaid. One of the best strategies for couples navigating these rules is to restructure assets. For example, converting excess resources into a Medicaid compliant annuity. For the community spouse, to protect the savings, the annuity has to meet the strict state requirements. This approach can be complicated, and there's real risks if the Medicaid annuity is not written correctly and the terms don't meet Medicaid standards, or if the state recovery rules are not considered. That's why Laura and Jim turned to a professional Medicaid planner for help. By planning ahead, before they submitted an application and using available exemptions and strategies, they were able to protect much of what they'd worked for without running afoul of the law. The process may seem overwhelming at first, but understanding which assets are counted and which can be protected can make a big difference. With careful planning, and good advice. Families like Laura and Jim can avoid costly mistakes and keep their financial future on track. When it comes to planning for Medicaid, two steps matter the most. First, knowing which assets are exempt, like your home and your car, small life insurance policies. Second, pay close attention to that 60-month look-back period, since transferring assets for less than fair market value can create a penalty period and delay for your coverage. If this video has been helpful, subscribe for more info like this. Remember, I'm a long-term care consultant and a Medicaid planner. Your situation might need an attorney. Not all elder law attorneys understand Medicaid law, and that could cost you thousands. So do your homework. What you're going through is incredibly difficult, and you're headed in the right direction. See you on the next video.